Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in the clown decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better, and luckily this is going to be one of those videos that actually looks like we have a route to actually get to that point where things get better. And it's all to do with this guy, the guy with all the FU money that you could possibly want, Mr. Elon Musk, who obviously purchased Twitter, which he now calls X, but I refuse to call it that, to make sure it turned into a profitable business and became a platform for genuine free speech, which he seems to have done a pretty good job of. And from time to time he even gets involved in the whole discussion, especially when it comes to free speech, though he's been getting more involved with pretty much every issue we've been having in Britain that I've been covering for the past month. So this all started when he started wading in on the discussion around the riots throughout the UK, both from the far-right thuggery side, as Sir Keir Starmer put it, but also from the side that absolutely nobody in the mainstream media really wants to talk about, despite the fact that they are being directly intimidated by them. So this all started off when Elon Musk, as I say, waded into the conversation, replying to an Andy No tweet pointing out that there was a rather large Muslim gang that started attacking a pub. There were also videos of this same gang attacking one guy who ended up getting barred from the pub, basically because the landlady didn't want any further problems with this mob that was threatening the pub. And so Elon Musk asks, why aren't all communities protected in Britain, Keir Starmer? And then added the hashtag #2TierKeir. And naturally, everyone went nuts about it, but before we get into everyone getting nuts about it, let's go through plenty of other examples of Elon Musk being our guy. He was very happy seeing his community notes working as intended when The Guardian put out a tweet saying, England riots, how the two-tier policing myth became so widespread. Obviously the community notes put in a few old Guardian articles explaining how two-tier policing exists in the UK. Obviously it's more of it's racist and sexist, but still the point being made. Two-tier policing was, the phrase wasn't exactly used, but it was always implied by left-wingers, you know, especially after the Stephen Lawrence case and all the statistics about stop and search kept coming out. But obviously when it comes to actual physical examples that we can all see of people even observing the riot not getting bail, compared to, say, the Manchester airport, attackers of policemen not even being charged at this point and being released on bail, it's pretty obvious that two-tier policing exists, but obviously from the left-wing perspective, the whites are on top, despite all evidence to the contrary. And Musk obviously kept pointing things like this out, observing protests as apparently illegal, after a man in Belfast, as I say, was denied bail simply for being present and then leaving as things started to get out of hand, at least according to his defence lawyers. And that is just madness. This is happening in the United Kingdom, specifically Northern Ireland, which has, to be fair, quite a separate statute of laws on the book, but never, as far as I'm aware, to the point where simply observing things going on gets you in trouble with the law. Musk was also retweeting informative memes explaining how the two-tier system exactly works here. Obviously, Tier 1 asylum seeker ordered to pay only £2 a month for assaulting an emergency worker and was let off with community service as he doesn't even speak English. Again, this is the type of person I'd just deport. Tier 2, man jailed for 26 months for shouting and gesticulating at the police. Which, I mean, if you're part of the riots, you sure deserve punishment. If you're part of the riots, but all you did was shout at the police and gesticulate, which probably means you stuck two fingers up at them, I would probably go as far as saying, yeah, maybe community service for that, but any jail time, I would probably say is a bit too far. And this isn't even bringing up that in the 2011 riots, which they are colloquially known as the 2011 riots, not one person was actually done and put in jail for a riot charge. It was all for disorderly conduct, criminal damage, things like that. And that was a riot that came about after a minority criminal was shot by police in a relatively dodgy situation. I can't really remember the details of it. It wasn't exactly fully unjustified, wasn't fully justified either, at least that was the outlook at the time. So, you know, effectively compared to what we're seeing today, it was a slap on the wrist. And that was over 10 years ago. You know, we've had a two-tier system for quite a while, and it's been complained about for quite a while, but it's all out in the open now because everyone has smartphones, and everyone can see what's going on. To the point where even Elon Musk is saying this, and I've not even touched upon the fact he said civil war was inevitable when this all started coming out. I forgot that happened. So much has happened with Elon Musk. But this is why people hate him, because effectively he is a very large voice against their total nonsense. Musk also noticed The Guardian started saying that Elon Musk should be on trial for these far-right riots, to which Elon Musk said about it, The Guardian should be on trial for aiding and abetting the destruction of Britain. I completely agree, by the way. I have read enough Guardian articles to know that they absolutely hate the country and want to socially engineer anything classically British out of it. He even started posting memes about the hostage-like videos where British police chiefs were giving out statements to the Muslim community using Arabic language at the start and the end, while being surrounded by the so-called Muslim community leaders, and it just looked uncomfortable for everyone watching it. And Elon Musk even makes the point that this meme could get you 3 years in prison in the UK, brackets actually. I mean, that's obviously a bit hyperbolic, but given the amount of people we've seen arrested for things as little as posting misinformation online, with the claims it incited violence despite the fact it only got 5 likes or something like that, it's just ridiculous. This is why people are calling this Labour government totalitarian. It invites comparisons to Stalinism, to Nazism, to plenty of other regimes around the world where speech has been curtailed to a ridiculous extent. It was so bad I even wrote to my MP, who I'm still waiting to hear off, obviously. I sent it over the weekend. But it is very, very good to have someone like Elon Musk, who had the FU money to buy Twitter, to make it a free speech platform, and then to actually be a free speech activist while doing all the other amazing things like making rockets and making amazing robots on wheels. I mean, I'm not a big fan of electric cars, but the software that's actually and technology actually put into the cars is actually pretty impressive. Naturally, he was also directly reacting to pretty messed up free speech issues in the UK. This guy got 38 months in prison, effectively for being a left-winger trying to goad the police into arresting him. And I mean, to be fair, the guy was an idiot. He was always gonna go to trial for this, but 38 months seems ridiculous to me. As you can see, he makes some pretty direct calls to action, let's say, although saying for all I care kind of implies it's not a call for action, to be absolutely fair to him. I mean, I don't think this guy should be punished, just to be clear. But he does make the point that he thinks it's one rule for some and another for others, and he doesn't think he will be arrested by Northampton police. Cue the Curb Your Enthusiasm music, I suppose. But again, it's just mad that this is 38 months in prison, and people who have directly hospitalised 3 female officers are still out on bail with absolutely no charge whatsoever. I hope this guy realises that actually two-tier policing goes the other way. I hope his time in jail doesn't ruin his family life as well. The guy had 3 kids. It's making a lot of people think, is it even worth risking posting anything on social media? Which is exactly what Labour want, by the way. They want you not to say anything because they think that it will keep them in power. But with someone like Elon Musk in the higher echelons of society over in America, which we're effectively a vassal state for, of course it's not going to last very long. This Labour government just keeps falling apart bit by bit. As I say, I don't even think they'll last 3 years. And at this point, I think even that's an overstatement. Elon Musk as well, if you didn't think he really was our guy, even is openly saying that it is worth listening to Douglas Murray. Now, my issue with Douglas Murray recently is that he's pretty much exclusively been talking about the Israel-Palestine war, when there are definitely other issues that are much more important back home. But I mean, I understand why he does it. He has many friends in Israel. But luckily, Douglas Murray does appear to be moving back to British issues given the current goings on, so I'm happy with that. And it's good that Elon Musk is signal boosting him. Frankly, Douglas Murray is very useful for the right wing, especially when it comes to immigration and especially when it comes to problems with the Islamic world and Islam. Anyway, the thing that seemed to annoy the new elite commentary at the most was when Elon was just posting basic memes and started talking about free speech. And I think the most annoying thing he did was start invoking Liz Truss, obviously forgetting her name, and saying that, you know, implying that she was a bad PM, which, to be fair, if you're kicked out after just over a month, you probably were a bad PM. But in Liz Truss' defence, I go through over and over again, she was kicked out by the new elite civil service commentariat and the Bank of England, but Elon Musk probably doesn't know that because he has more important things to know about. But as mentioned, his stance on free speech is pretty absolute, Freedom of speech is the bedrock of democracy. If the truth is suppressed, it is impossible to make an informed voting decision. The degree to which freedom of speech is being undermined around the world is extremely alarming, which I completely agree with. And again, part of the reason Elon Musk bought Twitter was because Twitter was completely suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop story. And it turned out that in polling, many people, I can't remember the exact amount of people, but a non-insignificant amount of people, enough to change the tide of the election, by the way, said, oh, if I'd known about that, I would not have voted Democrat. And so Elon Musk bought it because he realised, oh, this is election fixing. And that is not the way to keep stability in the country. And so that's why he brought it. And obviously, he's obviously an Anglophile. He obviously loves the UK. As you could hear, that was someone outside beeping for Elon Musk, I think. But seriously, he genuinely loves the UK. He wants it to be a successful nation. And, well, as we'll go through, loving the UK, as George Orwell said many years ago, over 80 years ago in fact, that is quite uncouth when it comes to the intelligentsia in the UK. And now we get into the, let's call it the new elite reactions. A lot of new elite were praising Larry the Cat for trying to explain to Elon Musk that we actually have freedom of speech in the UK, because it's written in the Human Rights Act. Want to make it clear, Count Dankula tried to invoke the Human Rights Act as a defence, and it was basically thrown out of court. Again, the highest profile free speech case in the UK couldn't even use the Human Rights Act. So already we're at a non-starter. But even then, in the example, the screenshot that Larry the Cat gives, it says the exercise of these freedoms, freedom of speech and expression, since it carries with it duties and responsibilities, may be subject to such formalities, conditions, restrictions or penalties as are prescribed by law and are necessary in a democratic society. In the interest of national security, territorial integrity, or public safety, for the prevention of disorder or crime, for the protection of health or morals, that's an interesting one, for the protection of the reputational rights of others, for preventing the disclosure of information receiving in confidence, or for maintaining authority and impartiality of the judiciary. In other words, there are so many asterisks on this is a free speech law that it may as well not be a free speech law. What is the protection of health or morals? I assume that is the reasoning given to ban people saying that, say, the AstraZeneca vaccine isn't entirely safe, and then obviously Keir Starmer said it was safe, and then it turns out AstraZeneca have to, take them off the market because there's a small chance that it could be unsafe. In other words, this law is not saying that there is free speech. There is a law saying free speech is up to the discretion of member states, and they decide what is good and bad speech. So Larry the Cat just shot himself in the foot, which I'm not surprised at given he's a cat. LBC presenter Matthew Stadlen, who was made infamous by saying crime in London basically isn't a thing, and then a month later getting his phone stolen in a moped robbery, said, "Think you may be confusing a crackdown on criminal racist riots with something that isn't happening. Your platform is a sanctuary to those who spread hate that leads to civil unrest," which again, as far as I'm aware, basically nobody joined the riots because of people saying we need to riot on Twitter, if people were even saying that on Twitter. Because as far as I'm aware, the people being arrested so far for free speech infringements, it's all been from Facebook. I've not seen a single person arrested because of what they've put on Twitter, by the way. And even then, that's completely ignoring the fact that people like Nick Lowe's of Hope Not Hate, as this gentleman also put in reply to Matthew Stadlen points out, he lied about a Muslim woman suffering from an acid attack from rioters in Middlesbrough. Just a complete lie, and that directly led to Muslim men arming themselves. We know that happened because the armed Muslim men cited this misinformation, and yet Nick Lowe's hasn't been arrested for it because he's on the right side of things. Next up is Armando Iannucci, and this is a bit of an odd one. He's well known for making The Thick of It, but also The Death of Stalin, which is a film I watched last night and it is very good. But in reply to Musk saying 100 to Joe Rogan, saying that the crackdown on free speech in the UK reminds him of Soviet Russia, Iannucci wrote a bit of an essay in which he explains that charging people for inciting racial hatred and for organising acts of violence, I mean, organising acts of violence is fair enough, but inciting racial hatred? Just nonsense. Who defines that? It's very specific, and it's the law in most democracies, including the US. It's definitely not law in the US. Inciting acts of violence obviously is, but inciting racial hatred? No. And then obviously what they do is cite the worst examples they can. Oh, one guy pleaded guilty to encouraging people to set fire to hotels, and then hotels were set on fire. And again, that guy, as we pointed out before, was trying to make the point that he doesn't think he'll be arrested because he thinks there's a two-tier system in the UK, which there is. He just got it the wrong way round. And then he carries on with the story that people were targeted, or specific communities were targeted, because of misinformation online, which, again, I don't think we can conclusively say at this point. Yes, the misinformation was spread around, but I'll be honest, most people saying it were saying, if this is true, things are going to get bad. I'm sure a few people took it as gospel truth. I don't know how many people in Southport rioted as a result of thinking that it was a Muslim that did the stabbing. Yes, the damage was done to a mosque, but it was just the wall on the outside of it and a couple of cars damaged. It was very similar to the damage on the rest of the road, and as Tick History pointed out, there was a Chinese chippy across the way that was completely undamaged. Because the reason people rioted, it's multifaceted. I don't think many people rioted for any particular reason other than they wanted a fight with the police. I reckon that is the main reason people were rioting. The protests, though, are about immigration in general, the breakdown of law and order, the problems that have been talked about for decades in the UK, where nothing seems to be done about it, and in fact, everyone seems to want to make it worse. Again, we've had civil unrest in the UK for like 2 weeks. Nobody's died. These riots are basically nothing compared to the 2011 riots, where 5 people died and millions was done in property damage. We are nowhere near that level, and yet this appears to be the new elite's version of Britain is collapsing around us. It's just ridiculous. But as I say, it's just quite crazy that someone who wrote The Death of Stalin, who had to know quite a bit about the Soviet Union, doesn't seem to think that it's a fair comparison. And the reason he doesn't think it's a fair comparison is effectively because he's on the side of the party. He doesn't see the issues here because he doesn't understand that there are people that actually the Stasi are going out to get. He doesn't realise this, which I think is one of the most dangerous things that we are actually seeing, just the complete blinding of new elites to actually what is going on with the average person in Britain. There is a massive chasm between the perceptions of your ordinary people in Britain and your new elite types. And it's causing all the destability we're seeing. Anyway, some high-profile accounts then started thinking that, oh, the best thing I can do to Elon Musk is block him. A lot of the people liking and following suit, I think you'll notice, have the blue check mark. So they're happy to block Elon Musk, but at the same time happy to give him money. Because everyone in the new elite only cares about performative actions. They do not have a moral bone in their body. But anyway, so far we've only gone through what has been said on Twitter. I mean, this stuff was making it to mainstream media, obviously, because Elon Musk is one of the most agitating rich people in the world. And again, thank God he's our guy. But I was listening to some podcasts from the Telegraph and the Times, and they started bringing up Elon Musk being a free speech absolutist. And honestly, it was like they'd never heard an argument for free speech before, because everything that they always do is say, what about defamation laws? What about inciting violence? And these people have clearly never read On Liberty, which, you know, most people don't read, so that makes sense. But they clearly never heard the argument of free speech absolutism before. It doesn't mean you should be able to defame and incite violence and conspire to murder. Nobody is on that side of things, obviously. The whole point of absolutism is that you go to the very edge of that line and stop. You get to that line and you say, this is it. Everything else is absolute. Because there's no point talking about the rest of it, because everyone has agreed for literally centuries that that should be an illegal thing to do. But as we'll see, this was the Newsnight clip where Sir Keir Starmer's biographer and man who used to work for Alistair Campbell starts just trying to be a big brain, saying, oh, he doesn't understand free speech, though.
But there's a sort of silly argument sometimes about free speech, and, you know, Musk is sort of trying to pretend sort of freedom of speech is some absolute right. It's never been an absolute right.
This is kind of technically true in the UK. It's still technically illegal to be a Republican in the UK. It's just not enforced. But obviously, Elon Musk has spent most of his life over in America, and over there they do have a pretty close to the bone absolutist free speech right over there. You know, it's written into their constitution. It's technically in our Bill of Rights, but only for parliamentarians, and as far as I'm aware, that is still actually in use today. And in fact, I think it's a bit ridiculous because part of the Nigel Farage debanking scandal included references to MPs protected by parliamentary privileges where they were just lying about Farage. And Farage can't actually do them for defamation, and I don't think that's fair. I think even if you're in Parliament, you should be able to be done for defamation in there. Or if you can't be done for defamation, you cannot use what they say in Parliament as evidence to, say, debank someone, though you shouldn't be able to debank anyone anyway. Use for evidence in any capacity. It shouldn't be allowed if you can't do them for defamation. That's the only way to be fair. And so even then, technically, actually, we do have free speech in the UK. You just need to be an MP. We just want the rights that MPs have.
And we have regulation. The BBC is regulated. I think the BBC is better for being regulated.
Again, this is one of those funny things I like to point out, but everyone says the BBC's right wing. All of a sudden, an open left winger comes on and says, actually, the BBC's really good and the best thing ever. It's just not right wing, and they keep letting the mask slip every time they want to defend it. But again, having regulations on what you can say in mainstream news sources doesn't mean that you can't have free speech. It's just a ridiculous thing. What, do you want these regulations for everyone? That's ridiculous. The only reason that the media need to be regulated is because, as the theory goes, people see the media as trustworthy, and so they need to keep that reputation. That's the point in the regulations, to keep their reputation intact. Obviously, they've completely ruined it because they do just keep lying anyway.
I don't think we have enough regulation of the press. I think the press is worse for not being regulated.
I mean, again, there are regulations and standards that the press need to adhere to. They, it's true, are not as restricted as broadcast media, but at the same time I'd say, well, there's probably a reason that over the past year 500,000 people have lost their TV licences, and I'd argue a big reason for that is because BBC News are just garbage. BBC Verify being one of the worst parts of BBC News. Again, the first thing they did when they were created was make a load of fake social media accounts. You couldn't make it up.
Social media is just another form of media. And for too long, people in that sort of internet world, this whole idea of freedom of the internet, they've thought that sort of somehow that this great technological change can go through without touching the sides of democracy. I think democracy needs to sort of reinsert itself.
Again, it's completely different though. You don't have professional standards on social media because why would you want to enforce professional standards on private citizens? This is like saying, oh, when you're on Free Speech Corner in Hyde Park, you need to have the same regulations as the BBC. It's just a ridiculous thing to say. The whole point is that it's the public square. The whole point is that it's basically the room of a pub where, you've got the conspiracy theorist in the corner talking about how the Earth's flat, everyone else at the bar talking about football, and then me and my friends are in a corner talking about politics. That social media is basically a pub room, and you're saying, I want... When he says democracy to reinsert itself, he basically means he wants free speech to be restricted for everyone. And they always let the mask slip. It's like, oh, well, we've never had free speech absolutism, therefore more restrictions are needed. Whereas I'm thinking, no, that's true, and I actually think that the restrictions should be lifted. Even on broadcast media, by the way, I don't think it makes it any better. The BBC having the rule that you can't call Hamas terrorists is absolutely insane to me. Why would you not be able to call a organisation that managed to kill 1,000 Jews and take hundreds hostage a terrorist organisation when they weren't even in a war? That is obviously absurd. Anyway, as mentioned, this whole view that free speech absolutism means something that it doesn't mean is obviously passed around the new elite. And Otto English, who is a man that I would not be surprised ends up writing part of the history curriculum in the near future, started wading in on this as well and embarrassing himself. None of these free speech warriors actually believe in free speech. That's not true. I do. What they want is their own individual right to spread lies, stir up disinformation, and propagate hate and violence without personal consequences. Not true. When people tell me they believe in absolute free speech, I ask them if they'd be happy for a mob to form outside their home with banners falsely accusing them of murder, and you know what? They never reply. Well, again, no. What is typically brought up is on liberty, where the line for John Stuart Mill was, if you already have the angry mob, inciting that already angry mob to violence is where the line should be drawn. It's as simple as that. And again, no one's complaining about the fact that Nigel Farage had a mob outside of his Reform UK offices after everyone started calling the riots the Farage riots, despite the fact it had nothing to do with him. There's no restriction on that, so these people are not serious. Just ignore this argument. But obviously, me being me, I didn't ignore it. So when I pointed out that this is just projection, Otto English asked me the same question. Would I be happy to let people publicly accuse me of a truly terrible crime without any evidence, and even protest outside your house claiming you had committed it? To which I just replied, well, actually, the banners part actually hasn't happened, but an MP has lied about me. Dawn Butler accused me of being cruel to my horses after defending a woman disciplining a horse went viral. I complained to the Labour Party and I've had nothing back about it. That's true, actually. I did send a complaint to the Labour Party asking her to delete the tweet and issue an apology. Not even a reply from the Labour Party to say, no, we're not doing that. We live in a world where the left can actually get away with what Otto English is saying should be restricted. Which was a handy way to dodge the question. I answer it elsewhere, by the way. But as I say, there's no point directly addressing this issue, because you may as well just say to them, we live in the world that you say you don't want for the right, but the left get away with it. That's my whole point here. The left get away with what you are saying you're worried about with free speech. And when I even posted evidence that Dawn Butler had said, or had implied that I had been cruel to my animals, Otto English just says I sound like a snowflake. To which obviously I just said, well, thank you for confirming that you think it's okay when the left do what you say you're worried about the right doing. Thank you for just confirming you're a complete partisan hack. Again, these people are not really worth engaging. The only reason I do it is to basically show you it's pointless engaging with them. Otto English is just an embarrassment, and I can't believe he just admitted that it's okay for the left to lie about the right, when he says I'm worried about the right lying. What a moron. Anyway, for reactions to Elon Musk, I think David Aranovich's had to be the most odd. I'm wondering who Elon Musk's audience for all this absurd anti-British stuff is. This anti-British stuff. Elon Musk is effectively saying, I want policing to be fair in the UK, and I want free speech in the UK. Aranovich comes from a communist family, by the way, and at least in his younger years was an open communist, and from the looks of it he still has the habits of a communist. It makes him look ridiculous here, so I imagine it must be some of America's more stupid citizens. No, David, many people in the UK don't want two-tier policing and want free speech. It's not that difficult. Again, David Aranovich's idea here is that Elon Musk is against the British new elite, therefore he is anti-British. And again, as I say, there's just a massive chasm between new elite attitudes and the rest of the country's attitudes. Again, this is shown hugely in the fact that MPs are way to the left on pretty much every issue compared to your average Brit. Anyway, apparently free speech is alive and well in the UK. Let's take a look at what Sir Mark Rowley, the head of the Met Police, had to say.
We will throw the full force of the law at people. And whether you're in this country committing crimes on the streets or committing crimes from further afield online, we will come after you.
Again, these crimes include posting emojis to Facebook, saying on Facebook, if it is true that the murderer was a Muslim, all hell is going to break loose. Apparently that was spreading misinformation, saying this is speculation. Making it clear that the only reason you were, let's say, pretending to encourage violence was to prove that there is two-tier policing in favour of white people in this country. Again, Elon Musk is right. They're completely overstepping their boundaries. This is draconian. This is totalitarian. This is why people are saying that Starmer is effectively Stalin. It just invites the comparison. The thing is, I don't think I'd be minding this as much if the people doing this weren't getting sentences that were way longer we've ever seen for anything when it comes to rioting or criminal damage in the past. Again, 2011 riots, I think the average time in jail was a year, and there were no rioting charges. Just this is all coming down heavy-handed. And again, thank God Elon Musk has Twitter, because it allows us to all see why. Mainly, again, thanks to the Americans that can get away with posting this stuff. So thank you very much, America. Genuinely.
To me about that, because we have seen some high-profile figures whipping up the hatred. You talked about it in there with the officers, in fact, about this being added to by online commentary. I mean, I'm even thinking of the likes of Elon Musk getting involved.
The Sky News interviewer is directly saying that Elon Musk is helping whip up hatred. It's just absolutely insane. The narrative, according to the UK mainstream media, is now people are rioting because Elon Musk is commenting on the situation and saying free speech is in danger. And there is clear two-tier policing. That is apparently what is being cited as, oh, I want to ask you, are you going to extradite Elon Musk? That's effectively what's being asked here. Are you going to come after Elon Musk?
What are you considering when it comes to dealing with people who are whipping up this kind of behaviour from behind a keyboard and maybe in a different country?
Being a keyboard warrior does not make you safe from the law.
What, you got to politely ask America if you can extradite their citizens to get them done under Communication Acts in the UK? You're kidding me? We have a lot of people effectively saying, oh, we need to really worry about sending out foreign aid and massively helping out in Ukraine and Gaza and Israel. Yeah, it's odd, that one. So that our soft power is put out all across the world. And then things like this happen. Yes, we are going to pretend we still own America and that we can get people from over there back here, such as Elon Musk, to then get them done under the Communications Act. Complete madness. Genuine madness.
You can be guilty of offences of incitement, of stirring up racial hatred. There are numerous terrorist offences regarding the sort of publishing of material. All of those offences are in play if people are provoking hatred and violence on the streets, and we will come after those individuals just as we will physically confront on the streets.
Yeah, I guess hunker down, Elon Musk. You might have to stay in an Ecuadorian embassy for a bit. Unbelievable. Honestly, at this point, if I was Elon Musk, I'd just come over to the UK anyway and see what they do. What, you're going to arrest me for posting things online? Now, come over, go on GB News for a special interview, go on mainstream media as well, like Jordan Peterson always did, just to absolutely lay the smackdown on them about what free speech is, about why you have a platform that protects it, and about why the government will fall down if it continues down this route. We need you, Elon Musk. You're our only hope, because the people here are so restricted in what they can say. We kind of need an American over here to just be able to say what they can say, because we are effectively being silenced. It's just true. Anyway, on the subject of Elon Musk being arrested, I think I'm going to have the last part of this video cover probably the stupidest events of this entire debacle. Here is disgraced former First Minister for Scotland, Humza Yousaf.
As for Elon Musk, he is I would suggest, one of the most dangerous men on the planet. He uses his billions. He is unaccountable to anyone to amplify far-right, white supremacist ideology.
Again, the way they frame it, it just always says the quiet part out loud. Always amplifying far-right voices. What, by allowing them to exist on Twitter? And again, from all the examples I've gone through, nothing about it is far-right. This is the general view of the UK. People can see the two-tier policing. People can see that every time free speech comes up, it's clear that they just want the left to be able to say what they want and the right to effectively not exist in the country. And people just aren't going to stand for it. I mean, again, a lot of them started off getting annoyed at him for saying civil war is inevitable, and they call that the destabilising factor, rather than the fact that we have literally had factions in the streets trying to beat each other up. That is probably how civil wars tend to start. And Elon Musk is just saying, well, this is the first step on the way to civil war. He's not saying he wants it. Nobody wants it. But effectively saying this is bad and going to escalate is not a bad thing to do, and is definitely not far right, for God's sake.
He has, as you have rightly said, suggested, I think, is hoping for civil war in some parts of Europe, including in the UK. And instead of using X as a platform for good and using his enormous wealth for good, he is using it, I think, for the most wicked evil possible.
So there you go. Humza Yousaf thinks that free speech makes you evil. That's basically what we're learning from this. And so someone replied to this being posted on Twitter by pointing out that actually Humza Yousaf is racist and evil, and Elon Musk even replied to this saying, he is super, super racist. Scotland gave him everything and yet he loathes white people. This is obvious because he has never complained about the race of any other country's leadership. There are over 200 countries in the world, most of whom have a single race leadership. Why is he only attacking Scotland? Very good point, Elon. We've been asking this for years, and he managed to become First Minister. and still attack white people. Hamza Yusuf obviously didn't like this, and a couple of days later threw out a tweet saying Elon Musk is a dangerous race baiter who must be held to account for his actions. I can't think what it is that upset him so much about brown Muslim progressive politician, but his billions won't stop me calling out his support for the far right. Well, if you actually read what he said, it's quite clear that he is upset that you, as a brown Muslim progressive politician, had a go at white people for being in charge of a massively majority white country. You know, we're talking over 95%. So yeah, I'd be pretty annoyed that if you were in charge of my country, you know, full of white people, and then started being racist to white people, yeah, I'd be pretty annoyed about that. In fact, no, I just was annoyed that you did that to Scotland, my neighbouring country. Like, that's just insane. I don't know how you can say that Musk is a race baiter and then be one of the most openly racist politicians imaginable and still be saying this. Absolutely no shame. As I say, just pointless getting into an argument with them because they are not serious, good faith actors. They just hate you. It's that simple. Anyway, Konstantin Krysin pointed out that Yusuf is in fact the real race baiter, which is true. And then Elon Musk says, exactly. Like, again, Elon Musk is our guy. I couldn't be happier he's on our team. This then escalates, by the way, to the former Scottish leader Hamza Yusuf not ruling out legal action against Elon over comments saying Yusuf loathes white people. His lawyer said Elon has effectively painted a target on Yusuf's back with his completely untrue and inflammatory comments. So what, going up in Holyrood, nearly said House of Commons, and saying basically that there are too many white people in charge of a white country, it is not an implication that he loathes white people. Yeah, all right. Elon Musk then replies saying he's obviously super racist against white people. I dare that scumbag to sue me. Go ahead, make my day. Legal discovery will show that however big a racist he is in public communications, he is vastly worse in private communications. Again, he just has FU money. Yeah, come on, sue me. I have no doubt that you are worse in private, and I reckon that's true. I reckon this isn't defamatory. And again, we have pretty good defamation laws in the UK. Elon Musk has enough reason to think that Hamza Yusuf is racist towards white people, and that'd be enough to give him a defence in UK law, and so yeah, he'd probably be up for it. Honestly, only good can come out of Elon Musk coming over to the UK. A bit like when Jordan Peterson came over quite a few years ago, when I started the channel actually. He just absolutely conquered the UK media, just made them all out to look like fools, and then when he comes over since, he does similar things. Everyone loves it when he comes over. He always fills out stadiums, he always does excellent lectures, even my mum went to one and loved it. It's just amazing. Elon Musk coming over and doing a similar thing, just going on a campaign against the UK media, going on interviews with them, carrying on with his Twitter crusade. Even if he went to court against Hamza Yusuf, that would be one of the best things to happen on this timeline, and honestly, knowing Elon Musk, he'd probably very much be up for it if he had the time. So I sincerely hope he makes it. Please, Elon, come over here. We need you to be our saviour. Again, the man is a total Anglophile. Without Googling, name something the UK invented. Elon Musk, pretty long list to be honest. The man absolutely loves and understands UK exceptionalism and understands that we are being brought down by our own government that hate us. That is exactly what he realises. This is exactly why he brought Twitter, because the US was having this issue with social media, but now he realises the UK is in a worse position and he hates that fact. I am very happy to have a billionaire like this as my ally, and I sincerely hope he does everything in his power to help the situation in the UK. And he's doing it already by showing that the government are a complete embarrassment, so well done there, thank you very much. Anyway, that is everything I'm going to cover today. There was way more I could have covered, but everyone keeps complaining about the length of my videos, so I think keeping this under 40 minutes was pretty good. Also, I'd pretty much made my point at this point. So, with that, shilling time, the other side of the hill talks will be tomorrow. I believe we are going to be going through the infamous Enoch Powell Rivers of Blood speech to give our opinions on it and effectively say how accurate was it. And naturally, the state of the UK will be brought up quite a bit in that stream too, so do come along and watch if you are interested. Regional variations on Wednesday, still TBD at this point. I've not had any confirmation from Tailed Feature, but I guess we'll see. Laughing at the Guardian, of course, will return at the weekend as well. need to confirm guests for that. I will get onto that right away. And naturally, videos will be out when and where. Subscribe, share the video, like it, become a member if you think I've earned it. But once again, that is everything I had for you for today. So once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.